Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Afi and I'm back again with another video. This video today is what do I call them? Chapter review. It's a chapter review. The book is Real Love in Dating. I've done chapter 1 and chapter 2. I'm gonna link them down below. If you haven't watched, please go check them out. I feel like this book is one of those books that's sort of like a continuation, so it's just better if you know what's earlier because it better prepares you for what's coming next. I think it's also, I guess this is the kind of topic that's very like you need a taste of it before you jump full in. I mean, he doesn't really do a good job of that, but I think it's important, so I'm going to link them down below and you can watch them. But the topic this time, chapter 3, is entitled, you know how we used to say entitled? So chapter 3 is the kiss of death to guarantee disastrous dates and lousy relationships. A bit of a recap from chapter 2. Chapter 2 was about imitation love, the different types of imitation love and how they show and stuff like that and how it works. So this time I'm going to basically just do a run through. I don't know, I feel like every single episode or every single time I do a chapter review it's different, so and I hardly can remember what I did last time, so it's fine. So the beginning statement is, without sufficient real love, all we have is emptiness and fear. And I feel like, oh, that is like insane to me, but it's the truth, right? Because for sure, if you're not feeling real love, you're feeling emptiness and fear, and what you're doing in your life is trying to find ways to fill that emptiness and fear. So in this chapter, I keep saying episode, y'all. Maybe I'm manifesting being on TV. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But in this chapter, we talk about getting behaviors and protecting behaviors. And the getting behaviors are behaviors and things that you do to get this imitation love, while protecting behaviors are things you do to protect yourself from letting anyone in, because you're protecting yourself from getting hurt. So getting behaviors are, for example, lying, attacking, acting like victims, and clinging. And then the protecting behaviors are the same things as well. It's lying, attacking, acting like victims, but at the end it's running. So instead of clinging, you're running away. It's protection. So anyway, there's a statement here. Some of our behaviors fall into multiple categories. When we lie, for example, we might also be acting like victims and attacking someone at the same time. So that's basically like it just crisscrosses and matches, and you might end up doing all four of them or whatever. And you'll see it later on, actually. So the first one that we're going to deal with is lying. And he begins by explaining how we begin this behavior of lying, and not even in a bad way, but just like how, and he uses this child called Andrew, right? Andrew is in this situation where he like breaks a mug or something, and his mom comes, and his mom is like, who broke this mug? And he goes, I don't know who did it, right? And that's lying. Like, it seems so simple, but it's lying because he broke it, and or he saw his brother breaking it, if it was his brother, and yet he says, I don't know. So it's a lie, right? And so he lies so that his mom walks away without doing anything to him. And in his brain it's sort of like, if I lie, then more often than not I'll be fine, right? So there's a statement I wrote here that says, Andrew lied to keep his mother from withdrawing her love, and that's the principal reason we continue to lie as adults. And that's something that I say, actually. I had a conversation with my friend yesterday, and we're just saying, like, the exact same way the way you treat a child when they're growing up, basically. It's like they break something, you're fine with it, or they lie about it, or you send them when they're children, they don't go. And I guess it could also just be like, whatever. Anyway, let me not get off course, but like, just, so I guess it's the same thing, yeah. So as Andrew lied when he was a child, he realized that this was something that if he did, he would be protected. So he kept lying. So it became bigger things, like he steals money. He's asked who stole this money. He says, I don't know. We move on. And I guess maybe it's important to just like, wow, there's a bit of noise, but anyway. So I guess at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is, like, all these things grow and they manifest, and as a person becomes an adult, they continue to do the exact same thing. It hardly ever changes. So another statement says, we hide the truth about our mistakes, flaws, fears, and foolishness because we've learned that people are then less likely to withdraw their approval, their love from us, right? So the more we lie, the more we feel as if people love us or like us. And so we keep lying because that's the way that people like us, right? But the issue with that is that when, okay, I think this is going to come later, but anyway, so lying as a getting behavior can be seen as like putting our best foot forward. So usually when people talk about going on dates and presenting themselves the best way that they can, that's a form of lying. And it's not even like in a bad way. It's just you putting your best foot forward. Or like, for example, one example I saw in the book was when you are taking a girl on a date and you take her to a very, very expensive restaurant when you know for sure you can't afford that kind of thing. Like you're literally about to die trying to pay for these 2 meals. And so that's sort of like a getting behavior because it's like you're putting your best foot forward. So of course you're showing this beautiful picture of who you are, like you go to fancy restaurants, and yet that's really not it for you. You can't afford it. And as a protecting behavior, we like to protect ourselves from the withdrawal of the approval we so badly desire. So, initially I said without sufficient real love, we're feeling emptiness and fear. So, because we're feeling emptiness and fear, we're trying to get approval from human beings to give us that, um, you know, that approval, right? Okay, cool. So, anytime you do anything at all to earn the approval of another person with how you look, what you say, what you do, you're lying. The fact that everyone is doing it doesn't make it honest or right. And the reason why I put that as part of my notes is because you when you read the examples, and again I'm going to just like recommend this book. Please read the book. I'm not telling you everything that's in the book. There's so much more in the book, but as you read it you see some examples and you're like, everyone is doing that anyway, right? But this statement says, the fact that everyone is doing it doesn't make it honest or right. So it's that thing of like, we're all lying to each other, so why not? Like we're all so used to it, so why not just do it? But it's like, it doesn't mean it's right, it just means everybody's doing it. But you don't have to follow the crowd. I think it's very, very important to remember that, just in that aspect, and also in life in general. Just because everybody is doing something does not mean it's the right thing to do, doesn't mean it's the right thing for yourself. It's just, you know anyway, so I wrote down some examples so that it makes sense. But I guess I only wrote one. But it says, you insist on paying for your own dinner with the explanation that you just like to share the expense, when the real reason is that you don't want to feel bad later if you ignore his calls. Bro, bro. I know for myself, I wouldn't say that I've lied in that capacity, but I have lied a couple of times when I don't want to go out and I'm like, my parents won't allow or whatever. And genuinely, my parents do not allow most of the time, but sometimes I genuinely take it to fine. I'm like, seriously, I feel like, really, really, are you serious? But it's just because like I don't want to do it and I don't have an explanation and I don't know how else to explain it. So I'm just like, my parents would allow me to do that. But and that's not to say that usually I'm lying about it. Like more often than not I'm not lying, because I'm a really, really crappy liar. But once in a while it'll come up. Or no, actually I haven't done that recently, so it comes up a lot of times. No, it did come up in my past, like when I was younger. I did that a lot. Like just be like, oh, my parents, before I even ask them, before I have that, just that opportunity to even like figure out if this is an option, I'm like, nope, not gonna happen. But sometimes it's because I don't want to, and so best excuse. And I know we do that a lot. Like there's this joke that's always going around social media, like me when I say I'm busy and all I'm doing is sitting in my room like sleeping or something, and it's a lie, and it's funny, but it's a lie. Just tell someone I'm not really into this, and you move. I guess I'm also learning how to be more open about that, because I think for so long I was so scared of being like, I don't like you, or I'm not comfortable with that, or whatever. And I guess sometimes even now I'm still very scared of that, but I'm learning more and more to stop lying about such stuff and just be like, I'm not comfortable with that, or just be like, yeah, it's fine, or just be like, I'm busy in this moment, or whatever. Most of the time, I'm actually just busy and I'm just like, I don't have the energy and the capacity. So, yeah. Anyway, so let's go on to why lying is a big deal, because I think sometimes it just looks like a small thing and you're like, why is it so deep, And the reason why it is because this is it's like a cycle, right? So you can't feel loved until you first feel accepted, right? You can't feel that I accept you, who you really are, until you're certain that I actually see who you really are, right? And you can't be certain that I see who you really are until you tell me the truth about yourself, right? So in essence, the tragedy of lying is that when we lie, we simply cannot be loved, because you're lying about who you are, which means someone is not seeing exactly who you are. So because they can't see who you are, they can't understand who you are, and they can't accept who you are, and therefore they cannot love who you are. It's that simple. And the thing with this is, even I realize, like, it's very easy to protect yourself by lying. So then you feel like nobody understands you, but it's because you're not telling the truth. And I have done that a couple of times, literally live my life like that. And it's not a good thing. And I say it like that, like I live my life like that, not nonchalantly, but just like it happens, and I'm working on it. I don't know if I'm getting better, to be honest, but I think for very long I just, and it didn't matter and whatever. So that's the problem of lying. And something that I want you to realize when we talk about lying is that it doesn't have to be a big lie. It can be a really tiny lie, but it's it comes into play, like it really, really does come into play at the end of the day, because these small things fill up and they become like a whole jar of things. So the second behavior is attacking. Oof, attacking. Everybody attacks. Honestly, when I see attacking, in my head a name pops up immediately. So, there's people who attack a lot. And basically, attacking is any behavior we use to motivate another person through fear to do what we want to do. And a good example of an attacking behavior is anger. What? Yeah. Anyway, every time you get angry at another person, he or she hears you say with your words and your behavior, I don't love you. And this goes back to, I think it was the first chapter, so I'm going to link it down below again, but it goes back to the first chapter where we talk about how when you're angry at someone, you're basically expressing that you have inconvenienced me, who is the center of the world. So how dare you inconvenience the center of this universe, me? So that's basically what happens with anger. And then the first part is, why do we get angry? The first reason is we're just reflexively mimicking what we've seen other people in our lives do when we make mistakes. So when we made mistakes when we were children, we saw people frown, we saw them roll their eyes, we saw them tap their feet and glare at us. So we had their tone of voice change dramatically as well. And that became how we show our anger. And I guess for me, I could say as well, I show most when I was younger, I used to, and this comes out later, but like when I was younger and I used to get really, really upset, I would bang doors, right? And I would sit in silence. So the banging of the door was, of course, like an attacking behavior, but I would also just like sit in silence because I'm angry. And until now, when I'm angry, I prefer to just be silent. I also do not like not telling someone when I'm angry at them, because I just think that festers, and I'm not interested in harboring feelings for people like that. Like, bro, that's too much work. But you see, that is basically probably maybe something I watched somewhere. Maybe I saw in a movie someone got angry and they banged the door, and I was like, cool, cool, cool. Even when I get angry, I will bang the door, and I'll sit there and wallow in self pity. And as I'm growing older, I'm just realizing I can't hold those feelings anymore. And reading this book has been so helpful with anger and controlling my anger. Yeah, so that's the first reason. We've watched someone else do it, we are like, cool, 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 why not do the exact same thing? Haven't thought about it, and we've grown up like that, and now it's innately a part of us. I would put that in quotes, but like it's that kind of thing where you feel as if this is who you are, you cannot change. The second reason is, in our society, it is almost universally accepted that anger is an unavoidable reaction to the negative experiences we encounter every day. As long as we believe that, we're absolutely stuck with our anger. So it's fine to be angry. Like, you can be angry and it's fine. It's an immediate reaction. Like, I know in my house, especially when I was younger, like I would get angry, and when you're angry, you want someone to come and be like, what's wrong, or like soothe you or whatever, but everyone was like, whatever, I don't care. And we laugh about it now, but now looking back, I'm just like, that's not a good thing to do. Like, I would like, when I'm dealing with somebody else, I don't want to ever be like, they're angry, let me just leave them in their space. But a lot for people in my family, I do that. Like, if someone is angry in my house, I'm like, fine, give them their space, let them just deal with that. But like, it's something that I would like to change in myself, just because I don't think that's productive. I think sometimes people do need time, but they also need to learn how to communicate that, so that it's not just that you're sweeping things under the rug and then it's all just moved on, moved on, moved on. I think it's very unhealthy, but that is a discussion for another day. Um, yeah, so that's the reason why we get angry. And so because it's so acceptable everywhere, we do it and it happens and we keep doing it, right? Cool. The third behavior is acting like victims. Um, I think there's a like aspects to acting like a victim. So first you look at what you the first thing, the thing that this behavior is telling you basically is, look what you did to me, look what you should have done for me, and it's not my fault. So it's sort of like you detaching yourself from this situation, like something happened, it's not my fault, it's that other person's fault, like I can't do this, blah blah blah. So victims have excuses for everything and blame everyone but themselves for their own mistakes and unhappiness. For example, you didn't complete an assigned task and you claimed you didn't have time. And the reason why I decided to use this example is because I have a video, I think it actually came out last week. It's probably the January recap, where I basically am like, I didn't have time this one week to do devotion and to take a walk and blah blah blah. But at the same time that I didn't have time to do those things, I also was just feeling very unproductive, right? Which means I was not doing as much as I should have been doing, So then I did have the time, I just did not take responsibility and be like, anyway, I messed up in this moment, right? So that's why I decided it was very important to use that as an example, because I think for me, what is important when I'm reading books is applying it into my personal life. It helps a lot. So the second example is, you make a poor choice and claim I couldn't help it. And that's something people say a lot, like, I didn't have a choice, or like, I didn't know, like something like that. And that that excuse specifically, that of like I couldn't help it, or like I didn't have a choice, I was put like between a rock and a hard place or whatever, it really really annoys me, because I'm like, so now I have to deal with this situation that you created because you didn't have a choice, so now I'm supposed to make the choice. Like, it's really really annoying, and for me, I just see it as like an avoidant kind of thing, like you're avoiding taking responsibility. And then another thing is, you say, after all I've done for you, you can't do this one thing for me. And I think, and another reason why I used this example is because I felt it. Maybe I haven't communicated it, but I think I have one time to my mom. But like, I felt it, like I've done all these things and yet you're so unappreciative to me. And I've done this and I've done this and blah, blah, blah. And you're very, very unappreciative and I feel unappreciated. And there's a song like that. I think it's called Unappreciated or something. I don't know what it's called. But there's a song like that. Okay, so the next behavior is clinging. Clinging is a getting behavior. Yeah. And so an example of clinging is, you're on the phone with your partner. When he or she says, well, I have to go, you keep the conversation going for another 15 minutes. The reason why I picked this example is not to attack anyone, but it's because I have experienced something like this. Like, I was on the phone with somebody and I was like, by like this time I need to be out, and you notice somebody dragging stuff on even when you don't want to. And I think for me, it was so, in the moment I was just like, oh my gosh, like of course I was irritated, because I'm like, I've already said this and this, but I can tell that you're dragging it on and blah blah blah. Anyway, because I've experienced this, I felt it was a good example to bring out. Yeah. And the next behavior is running. For example, when a conversation becomes difficult, when a conversation becomes difficult, you stomp out of the room in a righteous huff. As you slam the door, you throw in a dash of attacking and acting like a victim as well, kind of a protecting behavior salad, as it were. So, that thing where it's like you're having a conversation with someone and you walk away, you're like, I'm not dealing with this. And we do it all the time. People do it all the time. I think for me, I know a couple of people who do it all the time. Like, we are not dealing with the situation, we're not interested, like whatever, and I guess for me, I'm trying to learn not to be like that, but it's my first instinct, and I'm just like, I don't want to deal with this. This is too much. I'm tired. The next example is, you hide who you really are from others, avoiding exposure to the possibility of being seen. And I wrote here in brackets, Aquarius tendencies, and that's because, yeah, that's because it's like one of the character traits of an Aquarius. And it's not a good thing, it's just one of the characteristics. Like, you just don't open up to anyone, people think you have a heart of stone, like just all that stuff, where it's like majority of the people will think that you have like just a heart of stone because of how detached you are or how not open you are. And I guess, and the problem with that is you're hiding yourself from others. So people don't truly know you. So you don't feel loved because you know people don't know you. You know, so it's like a ripple effect. Another thing is you take relatively neutral positions on just about everything to avoid conflict and possibility that your date might not like you. And for me, I have seen that. I was having a conversation with someone a lot in December, and I remember having numerous times, and it wasn't just one person, it was like a couple of people, but I remember having times when I was like, yeah, I don't really have an opinion about that. But it's not really not having an opinion. It was just like, I can see both sides of it, and at the end of the day, I think you do whatever you want to do. And it's because for myself, I don't like the idea of being on separate ends like this. Like, I just think there's so much division already. I don't need to be looking for a way to divide myself from somebody else, you know. So I mean, and I guess maybe that is a running behavior. Like, I don't want to show you what I truly believe in, but it's because also I guess my beliefs are very, like, you know, weird. Anyway, next, you sleep way too much. Apparently that's a running behavior. So if you sleep way too much, check yourself. Are you running away from something? Maybe you're procrastinating, you know. That's a thing. And then the next thing is you've been dating this person for months and the relationship is going well, but you keep a list of potential replacement partners waiting in the wings. And people joke about this a lot these days, about how it's like you have to have. I saw this post that said, if you can have one boyfriend, why not have three or something like that? And I was like, that is exhausting. I don't know how you do it. That is exhausting to me in my head. But people do that a lot. And I guess now reading this book, I'm like, that's just a running behavior. Like, in my head, I'm not judging you or anything. I'm just coming from an understanding place of like, I'm not going to judge you because I know you're trying to avoid something. So this is something that you're doing. And so, you know, do you? So, in conclusion of this very long video, there are a couple of points here. The more we use getting behaviors, the more empty and alone we feel. With all the protecting behaviors, we also feel more alone because we're using them to keep people away from us. So, and I feel like I've said that throughout the video. As we get more real love, our emptiness and fear disappear, and then our need for getting and protecting behaviors simply evaporates. Um, yeah, and that's the truth, honestly speaking. I feel like for me, what happened was when I took my faith seriously and I started to completely embrace God's love for me, it's things that used to annoy me, I found were very, very like minute. Like, I didn't care about them that much, and not because it did not upset me, but just because it just became a thing of like, I know I'm loved unconditionally. So even if I do this one thing that would have previously made me go into this area of shame and guilt, now that I know I have unconditional love, I know I can repent and change my ways. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't just repent. Like, that idea of like you can say sorry and then go back to doing your bad thing is a very wrong idea. So you repent and you change your ways. And the fact that I know that I have the opportunity to change my ways every single day actually just changed my perspective on so many things for myself. So that was great. Anyway, the next thing is other people. So this idea that other people make us angry. So this statement says other people never make us angry. Rather, our anger is a reaction to a lifelong lack of real love in our own lives. And in this statement, the author uses a metaphor. $2 versus $20 million metaphor is what I called it. But the story was basically that you are hungry, basically. Like, in this one day, you're hungry, and you have $2 on your table, and that's all the money you have between you and poverty, right? And then your younger sister comes in and takes the $2 and disappears and goes, uses it, blah blah blah. That situation is going to make you angry, right? Let's say the next day you are hungry, but instead of having $2 only, well, you have $2 on your table, but you have $20 million in your bank account, right? And so your sister comes in and takes in the $2 and goes and does whatever, blah blah blah, you're not gonna be angry because you know this $2 is not what you have between you and poverty. Therefore, even if she takes this $2, you're good to go. You have more money, blah blah blah. You're good, right? Cool, cool, cool. So that idea of you being angry, it was not caused by your sister. It was caused by an underlying situation, right? The fact that you didn't have any money and the fact that you were hungry in that moment, right? But in another situation where you're not hungry and you're not, and that's not all the money you have, then you wouldn't be pissed. Like, should have taken the $2 and you're just like, okay, fine, whatever, you do it, you know? So anyway, this idea, there's a statement here that says we must understand therefore that how we react to other people is largely determined by how unconditionally loved we feel and not by their behavior. So, and as I said earlier, like, since I started to accept God's unconditional love for me, it became very like some things that used to make me feel unloved don't make me feel unloved anymore. And not to say that I have $20 million of love in my heart. I do not. I'm still, it's work in progress. I still have situations where I feel unloved and whatever. But I think ultimately getting to and reading this book and realizing that like someone's behavior cannot affect your behavior that much unless you allow it. I saw this statement actually. I was watching Princess Diaries the other day, and a statement, and what's her name, Mia, was crying in the car. Then the driver basically tells her, he's like, no one can make you no one can make you feel inferior unless you give them permission to. Like, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. That was a statement. Then she said Eleanor Roosevelt. So it was basically said by her. Then I created a thing on Canva and I posted it on my Instagram. So if you're not following my Instagram, please, like, I'll put it in the description box. You can follow. I do a lot of stuff there. Anyway, so that statement of like no one can make you inferior without your permission was, and that I watched like last week. So it's very, very fresh in my mind. But the reason why it's so fresh in my mind is because it gives you that idea of like you don't, like, regardless of what someone else does, your behavior is you. Like, you have control of what you do. You have absolutely no control of what the other person does. And that's something that I've learned in my life. Like, I cannot control everything everyone else does. And most of the things I used to be angry about is because I'm like, when you're stupid, or like you can't do this simple task. But it's just like I wanted to control those people, and learning that you can't control what someone else does, but you can control your reaction to what they do, and you also can't control what you do yourself, has been so monumental in my life. And so, yeah, so this statement says, when we clearly understand that every time we're angry, we are the problem, that it is we who do not have the $20 million we need, it is much more difficult to remain angry at anyone. And I think for me, when growing up, I remember having situations where I was like, this is actually really, really unfair. And anyone can see that this is an unfair, like, you are treating me unjustly, and I'm very big on justice. Anyone that knows me knows I love, like, I'm very big on justice. Like, you have to treat people fairly, and not fairly like everybody needs to be treated the same. Like, you have to treat people the way they deserve to be treated, and not deserve like you need to treat someone badly if they treat you badly, but like as a human being, you need to treat people well. Don't be disrespectful, don't be out here just doing things that are just like, anyway, that's a different story. So, oh my god, this video is too long. So yeah, so there's that thing where it's like when we clearly understand it, it is much more difficult to remain angry. So the next thing I want to talk about is drowning man. So there's this drowning man story where it's like someone is splashing water on you. You're on the poolside, someone's splashing water on you. You're getting angry. You're like, what's happening? Like, what is this water? Then you stand up and you realize the person who's splashing water is a drowning man. Oh my god, are you angry now? No, now you want to save the man, right? So that idea of like a moment of understanding can completely change your feelings, makes you realize that like you're not really angry at that thing. Like, the reason why you're angry is something way deeper than just that one act, right? And sometimes it's like a culmination of things. And I've noticed in myself, sometimes I get angry because of a culmination of things that just lead me to be like, I'm done, right? So all the people in your life who are behaving badly are just drowning, and they're using getting and protecting behaviors only to keep their own heads above water. So remember that. Don't judge people. Don't be shouting at people. Don't be angry at people. Like, there's no time for that. There's really, really no time for that. Like, in this world, you need to be as understanding as you can, because you don't know what's happening in people's lives. You're not too sure. Like, For example, someone who doesn't like being late, going on a date with someone who's late or whatever, like then you start to be angry and like you don't know why this person is late, and regardless of whether it was a malicious reason or not, you don't you being angry is taking away your own energy. That's a waste of your time. So anyway, this video is so long. I hope you enjoy, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below what you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't, it's free. I saw that one over 25, but anyway, yeah, see you next time. Bye.